Okay, I didn't know anything about the military hardware that was available at the time, but I knew that there should have been a rescue, and I didn't know why. So what I did is I wrote a letter to President Obama, and I asked him this question. I said, if one of your family members had been in Benghazi, would you have done things any differently? And President Obama, he was gracious enough to write a letter to me. This is a copy. That's his signature right there. He made 4 basic statements. The first one, quote, U.S. forces could not arrive in time. Well, I didn't have any military evidence to the contrary, so, well, I guess he's telling the truth. Number 2, he said military forces were not close enough. Okay, well, they knew there was going to be an attack. He called me twice. And he said the day before the attack, Ty had the skills of an emergency room doctor. He was a medic as well as the other skills. And the day before, he got everyone together and he says, we're probably going to be attacked tomorrow. And he got out the ketchup bottle, he got out the medical equipment, the gauze, he got out the tourniquets, and had people practice on each other, squirting the ketchup, putting tourniquets on, packing gauze. They knew there was going to be an attack. And Washington, D.C. knew there was going to be an attack. Okay, so when they say forces weren't close enough, they knew there was going to be an attack the next day. I would have pre-positioned assets. There were drones littering the sky. Okay, technically, they're supposed to be unarmed, but everyone knows that they aren't. They're equipped with Hellfire missiles. Now, a Hellfire missile can hit a target 3 feet. There were so many of them up above that if I had been sitting in the Situation Room in the White House and I had the authority that our Commander-in-Chief has, I would have just said, okay, one of those drones, put one of those Hellfire missiles right in the front yard of the embassy right now, and guess what would have happened? Those terrorists, they would have been running for their lives. They wouldn't have even got as far as where Ambassador Stevens was. That wasn't done. In fact, actually, the battle lasted 13 hours. Not one thing was done in 13 hours. But, you know, he said it, so I guess we're supposed to believe it. Okay, number 3, I directed my national security team to do everything possible. What? Well, Nick, he pointed out to me what he was actually saying was, I did everything possible to make sure everyone died in Benghazi. Ask yourself why. Nick's going to tell you they were ordered, do not rescue. Okay? The 4th thing, I know, when I found this out, my actions would have been the same if the attack had been against a member of my own family, end of quote. How many of you would want to be one of Obama's kids? I wouldn't want to be. Because guess what? If I was Commander-in-Chief and I was sitting in the Situation Room watching one of my family members or a family member of someone that was my job to protect, because we don't leave our military people behind. We always rescue. Okay, that's what we do. Okay, like I say, I don't have any military knowledge of what assets were available. But about 1.5 years ago, several military people whose job it was to rescue contacted me. Okay, now AFRICOM and CENTCOM, they have 2 places of operation. And at those places, one of their jobs is to send out rescue teams on short notice to be ready 24 hours a day. Okay? There's one in Tampa, and there's one in Ramstein, Germany. The one in Tampa, they must have known there was going to be an attack, because at the time of the attack, they had a meaningless exercise called Forward Look going on. The people that were conducting that were complaining, hey, we need to cut short this exercise because there's people that might be dying in Benghazi. And guess what? They didn't stop the exercise. That was totally meaningless. Finally, it ended 8.5 hours later. And when it ended, Did they rescue? No. You know what they were told? They were told, we're not supposed to do anything because we were ordered. The State Department is in control of Benghazi. Now, I don't know a whole lot. I'm just a stupid attorney. But I do know that the military does not take orders from the Secretary of State.
That's right.
The military takes orders from the Commander-in-Chief. That's President Obama, unless the Commander-in-Chief tells the military concerning concerning Benghazi, don't obey me, obey Secretary of State Clinton.
So in regards to the letter that Barack Obama sent to Charles Woods, U.S. forces could not arrive in time. That's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true at all. We actually, as in my position I was at in combat operations there at the 603rd AOC, I had several different assets, basically all the assets for Africa, all send information to me, and then from there I would consolidate that information and I would make reports for generals and I would send out situation reports. And one of those units was a rescue team, and they, as Charles said, they were ready to go 24 hours a day. And during the time of the attacks, they were not asked to help at all. As a matter of fact, NATO was in the area. Okay, NATO was nearby, and they requested us, they specifically requested to CENTCOM and asked, can we help you in this situation, can we help you? And we denied them and told them no. On top of that, as Charles said, we had drones armed and unarmed littered all over northern Africa, and even if there wasn't an armed drone right in that spot, it could be there in a very short time. And we also had enough Marines to invade the country in Rota, Spain, nearby. It would have only taken a couple hours to get over there, and problem solved. And also, Aviano has fighter jets, right? And they were also running an exercise at the same time, and they were told not to leave the exercise that they were in and engage and provide close air support. So, to address the second question, our second statement, the attacks happened so rapidly that forces could not arrive in time. For 1 whole week before the attacks, they had received indications and warnings letting them know that the attacks were going to happen. On top of that, there were over 600 requests for more security, and all of those requests were denied. And that was over the course of a few months, so do the math, that's over 2 times a day. 2 times. So the other statement that's really peculiar out of all of them is that he instructed his national security team to do everything possible. That is bullshit, all right? If that was true, they would have told the people at CENTCOM to stop their exercise and engage and provide support in a rescue team, all right? Instead, they were told the State Department is in control and to continue on their exercise for another 8.5 hours. The State Department doesn't have any assets, all right? They don't have any assets to do anything. The military doesn't take orders from the State Department. They're not involved in the chain of command at all. So Obama was somewhat accurate in what he said. Obama did tell his national security team to do everything possible, and it was to ensure that everyone in Benghazi died. Now, there's a saying in Washington that the cover-up is worse than the crime. And in this case, it's no exception. Hillary Clinton was selling weapons through Benghazi. There was a covert weapons program ran through the CIA through Mark Turey. Mark Turey was only allowed to give small arms weapons and provide them through Benghazi. And Hillary personally told him, no, you're not doing that anymore, I am. And then her and her friends decided to sell all the weapons through Benghazi. And among those weapons that they sold through there were Stinger missiles. And these Stinger missiles all went through Benghazi and went to our enemies. These Stinger missiles can shoot down a jetliner. A 12-year-old can be shown how to put it on their shoulder, point it, and pull the trigger and shoot down a jetliner. That's how sophisticated these weapons are, all right? So, along the way, those weapons made it in the hands of a few very bad people. Actually, most of them went to bad people. And one of these missiles made it over to Afghanistan. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the fact that the SEAL Team 6, after they killed Bin Laden, they were all killed. Almost all of them were killed, very shortly after. Joe Biden said publicly that SEAL Team 6 had actually completed the mission. After that, they began rewriting their wills per their Gold Star family member. They knew what would happen. They weren't going to go home. That's right. So, one of these missiles made it to Afghanistan, and it was used to shoot down their helicopter. Extortion 17 is how some people might know it as. All right? So when they shot down this helicopter and killed nearly all of them, it makes you wonder, why did this all happen? You know, after talking with Charles, I've come in contact with several witnesses. I've gotten so much information from so many people, and one of the main questions that I could never answer was why. Why would they do this, right? Why would you do this?